when a 14-year-old girl walked into a biker garage asking to paint motorcycles for tips. The crew laughed. Then she pulled out a napkin with a sketch that made the oldest member go pale. It was an emblem no one had seen in 9 years, one that belonged to a brother they thought they'd lost forever. But she wasn't just looking for work. She was running for her life. The Iron Jaws garage sat on the edge of town where the asphalt gave way to gravel and the streetlights stopped pretending to work. It wasn't the kind of place you stumbled into by accident. The building itself looked like it had survived a war. Corrugated metal walls patched with mismatched sheets. Windows so crispy with oil and dust you couldn't see inside even if you wanted to. A hand-painted sign hung crooked above the entrance. Iron Jaws MC members only. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of motor oil, cigarette smoke, and coffee that had been sitting on the burner since morning. 3 bikes were up on lifts, their engines half disassembled and spread across workbenches like mechanical autopsies. The crew was deep into their usual rhythm. Wrenches clanging, classic rock bleeding from a paint-splattered radio, and the occasional burst of laughter when someone told a bad joke or dropped a bolt into an impossible crevice. That's when the door opened. She couldn't have been more than 14. Small frame, worn sneakers, a backpack that looked like it had seen better years. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, and her jacket was 2 sizes too big, sleeves rolled up to keep her hands free. She stood in the doorway like she was weighing whether to step forward or bolt. Jimmy was the first to notice. He was elbow-deep in a paint job, custom flames licking up the side of a fuel tank. He glanced up, brush still in hand, and gave her a look that wasn't exactly welcoming. "Lost kid." She shook her head, took a step inside. The noise in the garage didn't stop, but it shifted. Conversations got quieter. A few heads turned. Terry, leaning against a toolbox with a beer in hand, raised an eyebrow. Gregory, the oldest guy in the room and the only founding member still breathing, sat in the corner near the space heater, flipping through invoices. He looked up slowly, sizing her up the way you'd size up a stray dog that wandered into your yard. "We don't do tours," Terry said, not unkindly, just matter of fact. The girl didn't flinch. She walked up to the nearest workbench, set her backpack down, and looked around the room like she was cataloging faces. "I can paint," she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "Bikes, helmets, whatever you need. I'll do it for tips." A beat of silence. Then someone laughed. Not cruel, just surprised. A teenage girl offering to paint custom bikes in a garage full of men who'd been riding longer than she'd been alive? It was absurd. Jimmy smirked. "Yeah? You got a portfolio, Picasso?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a folded napkin. It was wrinkled, stained with what might have been coffee or grease, but she handled it like it was fragile. She unfolded it carefully and slid it across the workbench. Jimmy leaned in. His smirk faded. The napkin had a drawing on it. Ink probably from a cheap pen, but the detail was sharp. It showed a custom emblem. A jagged jawbone wrapped around a coiled serpent, flames curling up from the base. Inside the design were initials, LH, and beneath that a date. Gregory stood up so fast his chair scraped against the concrete. He crossed the garage in 3 strides, grabbed the napkin, and stared at it like he'd seen a ghost. His hands were shaking. "Where did you get this?" His voice was rough, barely controlled. The girl looked at him without blinking. "My brother drew it." "Your brother?" "Luther Holloway." The garage went dead silent. No music, no tools, just the hum of the space heater and the distant sound of traffic outside. Terry set his beer down. Jimmy stepped back from the workbench. A younger guy named Jeff, who'd only been patched in a year ago, looked around confused. He didn't know the name, but everyone else did. Luther Holloway had been one of the original Iron Jaws. A rider who could make a bike sing, a storyteller who could hold a room, and a painter whose custom work was so distinctive that people still talked about it years after he died. He'd gone down in a crash on a rain-slicked highway, rode alone, never made it home. The club had buried him with full honors. They'd mourned him, moved on the way you have to when you lose a brother on the road. But no one had ever mentioned a sister. Gregory's jaw tightened. Hollow never said he had family. He didn't talk about me much, she said. But he told me if I ever needed help, I should find you. He said you'd know what to do. Jimmy folded his arms. And what exactly do you need help with? She hesitated, just long enough for Gregory to notice. I need work, she said finally. That's all. It wasn't all. Everyone in the room could tell. But no one pushed. Not yet. Jimmy studied her, then looked at Gregory. The old man was still holding the napkin like it might disintegrate if he let go. All right, Jimmy said slowly. You want to paint? Let's see what you've got. He grabbed a stripped gas tank from a shelf and set it on the bench. Tossed her a set of brushes and a few cans of paint. 1 hour. No tracing. No stencils. Show me what Hollow taught you. She didn't hesitate. She tied her hair back tighter, rolled up her sleeves and got to work. At first, the crew went back to their tasks. But one by one, they found reasons to drift closer. To glance over. To watch. Her hands moved fast but precise. She didn't sketch first. Just started painting, building layers, letting the design emerge from instinct. The lines were clean. The shading was aggressive but controlled. And the style, it was unmistakable. It was Hollow's hand. But younger, sharper, alive. When she set the brush down, half the garage had gone quiet. They stared at the tank like it was breathing. Gregory stepped forward. He ran his fingers along the edge of the design, careful not to smudge the paint. He taught you this? She nodded. Every weekend. Before he died. Gregory didn't say anything. He just looked at her. Really looked at her. And maybe saw something he hadn't let himself see before. She wasn't just some random kid. She was Hollow's little sister. And she'd come looking for the only family she had left. Sky stayed. Gregory didn't officially invite her, but he didn't tell her to leave either. After the gas tank, Jimmy handed her a helmet that needed touch-up work. Then a fender. Then another tank. She worked quietly in the corner near the paint bay, methodical and focused, while the crew went about their business around her. She slept in the back office that night. Someone left a blanket and food. She didn't ask permission. Just curled up and disappeared into sleep like someone who'd learned to rest wherever safety presented itself. The next morning, Terry found her already awake, sketching in a battered notebook. He leaned against the doorframe, coffee in hand. You got people looking for you? She kept drawing. Probably. That gonna be a problem for us? She finally looked up. I don't know yet. Terry took a sip of his coffee. Kid, we can't harbor a runaway. You get that, right? I'm not asking you to hide me, she said. I'm just asking for work. Work requires a name, an age, documentation. Sky Holloway, 14. And I don't have documentation anymore. Terry sighed. He had 3 kids at home. He knew what it looked like when a teenager was running from something real. He also knew what it meant to get tangled up in someone else's legal mess. Where'd you come from? She closed the notebook. A group home. 2 counties over. And they just let you walk out? They didn't let me do anything. Over the next few days, the story came out in pieces. Sky didn't volunteer much, but the crew was patient. They'd seen plenty of people carrying weight they didn't want to talk about. Lucy, who handled the club's books and paperwork, was the one who finally got her to open up. Lucy had a way of asking questions that didn't feel like interrogations. She brought Sky food one evening, sat down, and talked about nothing in particular until Sky started filling the silence. She'd been in foster care since Luther died, bouncing through homes that ranged from tolerable to unbearable. But the group home was worse in ways that didn't leave bruises. Rules without logic. Punishments that felt personal. She'd mentioned her brother once during intake, and the staff told her to stop living in the past. When she asked if she could keep his dog tags, they said personal items were a privilege, not a right. A supervisor found her sketchbook. She'd been drawing Luther's bikes from memory. Every detail she could remember. The exhaust pipes he'd customized. The flame patterns he'd taught her to layer. The emblem he'd worn on his cut. The supervisor flipped through it, then tossed it in the trash without a word. Sky waited until lights out, fished it from the dumpster, and left that same night. She'd been on the move ever since, sleeping in bus stations and fast food bathrooms, doing odd jobs for cash, staying ahead of the system that kept trying to drag her back. Lucy listened without interrupting. When Sky finished, Lucy nodded once. Hollow never told us about you, Lucy said gently. Why do you think that was? Sky shrugged. He kept his life separate. He said the club was important, but so was I. He didn't want those things touching. Did he ever try to get you out? Before he died? I don't know. Maybe. He said he was working on something. But then the accident happened, and everything just fell apart. Lucy made a mental note to dig into that later. If Luther had been trying to get custody, there'd be a paper trail. And if there was a paper trail, maybe they could use it. Sky kept painting. Word started to spread among the local writers. People who'd known Hollow back in the day came by just to see her work. A few of them watched in silence, shaking their heads. That's Hollow, one of them said quietly. But the attention made Terry nervous. The more people who knew she was there, the harder it would be to keep her off the radar. He brought it up at the next club meeting. We need to figure this out, he said. She's been here too long. Someone's gonna call it in. She's Hollow's sister, Gregory said flatly. We owe him respect, Terry countered. But sheltering a runaway minor? That's a legal nightmare. We've worked too hard to stay clean. The room divided. Jimmy stayed quiet, which wasn't like him. Lucy left the argument and went to the back office, digging through old club records. She found Luther's file. Sparse. No mention of family. She found something else. A document request from years back. A petition filed with the county family court. Luther had tried to get custody of Sky. Lucy read the attached report twice. The petition had been denied. The reason cited was Luther's association with the Iron Jaws Motorcycle Club. The evaluator deemed him unfit. Wrong lifestyle. Wrong associates. An incident report was sealed. Lucy couldn't access details, but the summary mentioned violence at Sky's group home. Allegations buried. Lucy sat back, staring at the screen. Luther had tried to save her. The system stopped him. She printed the documents and brought them to Gregory that night. He read them in silence. When he finished, he set the papers down. He tried, Gregory said quietly, and they stopped him. Which means this isn't just about a runaway. The system failed her before Luther even died. Gregory looked toward the paint bay where Sky was working late, headphones in. So what do we do? Lucy didn't have an answer, but they weren't sending Sky back. The garage felt different as the days passed. Terry avoided Gregory during meetings. Jimmy focused on paint jobs and stayed quiet. The younger members stayed out of it. Jeff was the one who accidentally made things worse. He'd been helping Lucy pull old records when he found a thread of emails that didn't belong. A message thread from years back, dated near Luther's custody petition. Someone had been digging into the Iron Jaws. Background checks. Association patterns. The inquiry had come from a law firm, but the firm was representing a private client. The name was redacted in most places, but Jeff found one email where it slipped through. Michael Ventry. Jeff didn't recognize the name. He brought it to Lucy. Lucy's expression changed. Ventry, she said quietly. He ran with the Steel Chains. Rival club from back in the day. What happened to him? His brother died in a crash, Lucy said. Same night Hollow went down. Jeff leaned back. You think it was connected? Official report called them separate crashes. Different highways. The Chains thought Hollow caused it. Ran his brother off the road, then crashed fleeing. Did he? Lucy shook her head. Hollow was a lot of things, but he wasn't a killer. Gregory was with him that night. Said they were riding alone, heading back from a run. Hollow hit a patch of oil and went down hard. The Chains guy crashed an hour later, miles away. Pure coincidence. But Ventry didn't buy it. Jeff pulled up more recent records. Ventry had hired a private investigator who specialized in tracking runaways. The investigator had been active in the area for weeks, asking questions at bus stations and shelters. Lucy's stomach dropped. He's been following her. She brought everything to Gregory that night. The club gathered in the back room, door closed, voices low. When Lucy laid out what Jeff had found, the room went quiet. Terry was the first to speak. So this isn't just about child services. Someone's actively hunting her. Looks that way, Lucy said. Gregory rubbed his jaw, thinking. Ventry wants revenge. He couldn't get it from Hollow, so he's going after his sister. What's his play? Jimmy asked. He can't just snatch a kid. He doesn't have to, Lucy said. He just has to make sure she ends up back in the system. Maybe in a place that's worse than where she came from. Maybe in a place where he's got connections. Terry swore under his breath. He glanced toward the paint bay, where Sky was working late again. She'd started a mural on the far wall. A massive piece that showed the club riding together through flames. Every member, past and present, rendered in her precise, relentless style. At the center was Luther, leaning into a turn, his bike roaring, his expression fierce and alive. Right behind him, barely sketched in, was a smaller figure. A girl on a bike made of light pencil lines. Unfinished. Still becoming. She doesn't know, Terry said. And we're not telling her, Gregory said firmly. She's been through enough. We handle this ourselves. How? Jimmy asked. Gregory stood, his chair scraping against the floor. We make sure she's protected. Legally. We get ahead of this before Ventry does. Terry crossed his arms. And if we can't? If the state comes knocking and we've got nothing to show them but good intentions, then we fight, Gregory said. Same as Hollow would have done. The room stayed silent. Terry wanted to argue. He had kids. He knew what it meant to stick your neck out for someone else's child. But he also knew what it meant to walk away when someone needed you. He looked at the mural again. At Luther's face. At the girl behind him, still taking shape. All right, Terry said finally. But we do this smart. We get a lawyer. We build a case. We don't just throw ourselves in front of the train and hope it stops. Gregory nodded. Lucy, can you pull together everything we've got? The custody petition. The incident reports. Anything that shows the system failed her. Already on it, Lucy said. Jeff, keep digging on Ventry. I want to know where he is, who he's working with, and what his next move is. Jeff nodded. And Jimmy, Gregory said, turning to the painter. Keep her busy. Keep her safe. Don't let her know we're worried. Jimmy glanced toward the mural. She's got a good eye. That piece is gonna be something when it's done. Yeah, Gregory said quietly. It will. Over the next few days, Sky kept painting. She worked in bursts, sometimes staying up past midnight, headphones in, lost in the rhythm of brushstrokes and color. The crew gave her space but stayed close. Someone always made sure there was food. Someone always checked that the heater was running. She didn't ask why they were being so careful. Maybe she sensed it. Maybe she was just used to people keeping secrets. One evening, Gregory found her standing in front of the mural, staring at Luther's face. You miss him, Gregory said. It wasn't a question. Sky nodded. Every day. He was a good man. Loyal. Reckless sometimes, but loyal. He told me the club was his family, Sky said. He said you'd take care of each other when things got bad. Gregory stepped closer. He was right, and that includes you. She turned to look at him, searching his face for something. Proof, maybe. Promise that wouldn't break. Why didn't he tell you about me? She asked. Gregory took a breath. I think he was trying to protect you. From this life. From the things that come with it. But I needed him, she said. And he wasn't there. I know, Gregory said. But we are. Sky looked back at the mural. The unfinished figure behind Luther. I don't know how to finish it, she admitted. Gregory studied the piece. It'll finish when you're ready. She didn't respond, just picked up her brush and added another stroke. Then another. Gregory watched her work, then quietly walked away, leaving her alone with the work. The call came early in the morning. Jeff's phone buzzed while he was still half asleep, and the message made him sit up fast. The private investigator had filed a formal report with Child Services. They had Sky's location. Someone was coming. He called Gregory immediately. Within an hour, the entire club was at the garage. Lucy had her laptop open, files spread across the desk. Terry was pacing. Jimmy stood near the paint bay, arms crossed, watching Sky work on the mural like nothing had changed. How much time do we have? Gregory asked. Maybe a day, Jeff said. 2 if we're lucky. Lucy looked up from her screen. I've got everything compiled. The custody petition Luther filed. The incident reports from the group home. Testimonies from other kids who were placed there. It's enough to show a pattern of neglect and abuse. Is it enough to win? Terry asked. I don't know, Lucy admitted. But it's better than nothing. Gregory turned to Terry. You said you knew a family lawyer. Terry nodded. Yeah, Martha Clark. She's good. Handles custody cases, foster placements. I'll call her. Do it now. While Terry stepped outside to make the call, Gregory walked over to Sky. She had her back to him, adding details to one of the bikes. We need to talk, Gregory said quietly. She set the brush down and turned around. They found me. Yeah, Gregory said. But we're not letting them take you without a fight. You don't have to do this. I can disappear again. I've done it before. And go where? Gregory asked. How long do you think you can keep running? She didn't answer. Your brother tried to get you out, Gregory continued. He filed paperwork. He fought the system. And they shut him down because of us. Because he wouldn't walk away from the club. Sky looked at him, her eyes sharp. So this is about guilt. This is about family, Gregory said. Hollow was our brother. That makes you ours too. She studied his face, looking for cracks in the conviction. She didn't find any. Terry came back inside, phone still in hand. Martha's in. She'll meet us in a few hours. She needs to see everything we've got. Lucy started gathering documents. Jeff backed up digital files to a drive. Jimmy finally spoke up from across the room. What do you need from me? Keep her calm, Gregory said. And finish that mural. I want it done before anyone shows up here. Jimmy raised an eyebrow. You think a painting's gonna make a difference? I think it shows she's got a reason to stay, Gregory said. The meeting with Martha Clark happened in a diner outside of town. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, wearing a blazer that had seen better days and carrying a briefcase that looked older than Sky. She ordered coffee, listened to the whole story without interrupting, and then flipped through the documents Lucy had brought. When she finished, she set the folder down and looked directly at Sky. Do you want to stay with them? Sky hesitated. I don't want to go back to the group home. That's not what I asked. Sky glanced at Gregory, then back at Martha. Yeah, I want to stay. Martha nodded. Then we file an emergency petition. We show systemic failure, Luther's blocked custody, and proof the club can provide stability. Will it work? Terry asked. Depends on the judge, Martha said. But we've got a decent shot, especially if we can show that Sky's been thriving here. She has, Gregory said. Martha looked at him. You understand what you're signing up for? Background checks. Inspections. The state will scrutinize everything. We've got nothing to hide, Gregory said. Everyone's got something to hide, Martha said bluntly. But as long as it's nothing that endangers the kid, we can work with it. The hearing was set quickly. Martha pulled strings, called in favors, and got them in front of a judge before Child Services could move Sky to a temporary placement. The courtroom was small. Sky sat between Gregory and Lucy, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The state argued Sky belonged in the system. The iron jaws were unfit. Safety over sentiment. Martha countered with the documents. She presented Luther's custody petition and the reasons it was denied. She showed the incident reports from the group home, the complaints that had been ignored, the other kids who'd suffered in silence. She called Terry to the stand and he spoke about his own children, about what family really meant, about why the club was willing to step up when the system had failed. Then Martha called Sky. The judge asked her questions. Simple ones. How long had she been at the garage? Did she feel safe? What did she want? Sky answered carefully, her voice quiet but clear. She talked about Luther, the art he'd taught her, the promise he'd made, and the mural. I've been painting the club, she said. All of them. Because they're the only family I've got left. The judge listened, then asked to see the sketchbook Sky always carried. Martha handed it over. The judge flipped through the pages slowly, studying each drawing. Luther's bikes. The club members. The emblem that had started everything. When the judge finally spoke, the room went still. I'm granting temporary guardianship to Gregory Moss and the Iron Jaws Motorcycle Club under supervised conditions. There will be regular check-ins. Any violations, and this arrangement ends immediately. Sky exhaled, her shoulders dropping like a weight had been lifted. Outside the courthouse, Martha shook Gregory's hand. Don't screw this up. We won't, Gregory said. Back at the garage, the crew had finished the mural in Sky's absence. Jimmy had added the final touches, blending her sketches into something whole. When Sky walked in and saw it, she stopped. Every member was there. Luther at the center. Behind him, fully rendered, a girl on a bike. Gregory stepped up beside her, holding something folded in his hands. Patch, custom made. Her initials stitched into the fabric. You're not running anymore, he said. You're riding. Sky took the patch. She looked at Gregory, then at the mural, then at the crew standing around her. And finally, she smiled. This story reminds us that family isn't always about blood. Sky didn't just find a garage. She found a brotherhood that honored her brother's memory by protecting his sister. What would you have done in the Iron Jaws place? Drop your thoughts below. And if this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to embrace the journey for more stories that prove second chances are real. See you in our next video.